Well, we've got an exciting new release that just came out that I want to talk about.
From Night Customs?
That's right.
Hi guys, Brett here from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm joined by James Knight.
Nice
Welcome,
to see you again,
James.
Brett. Nice
Welcome
to be
in
back.
the studio. What brings you into our humble little studio this time, my friend?
Well, we've got an exciting new release that just came out that I want to talk about. And,
From Night Customs?
That's right, and obviously not obviously, but this was in partnership with you guys. You guys helped me get started on this journey with working with me on getting a Promoto.
With the Promoto, yes, absolutely. Doesn't look a lot like a Promoto.
Not anymore.
Looks nothing like one whatsoever, other than it does in fact have two wheels, handlebars and some forks.
And a rider, yeah. Well, Losi did a really good job with the platform.
Yes.
And as soon as it came out, I mean, I'm a big fan of motocross bikes anyway. You know, what I do is whatever they're doing, I want to do something different.
Yes.
And the Dakar style rally bikes are one of my favorite style of bike, all the way back from when Tammy used to do them in the 112. Was the smaller model size? Anyway, they used to do it like a 1/8 maybe model kit. So as soon as this came out, I had a vision to make this bike. Took a minute to get it. Took a minute to get the bike. Obviously, thanks to you guys, you helped me with that. And then scanning it and making sure I had all the data to build off of it.
And it's sort of got a touch of Australian about it too, right?
It
like
does, with the
Toby Price.
Toby Price. So had to have, this is the custom outfit that I had made by a company in the USA called RC Solutions USA.
Yep.
They can do any Promoto outfit that you want. You just literally need to tell them what you want.
Give him that artwork.
Well, no, he's
got it on file.
Well, he's a big bike fan, and you will tell him, oh, I want Toby Price's from the Dakar, and he will pull up the reference himself. He said, this outfit, and I'll say yes. And then next thing I know, he's sending me the outfit. So this has got a unique construction compared to stock. It's got the standard top and bottom, but he is able to do it without the zipper, which is kind of cool.
Yes.
And in addition to that, the Dakar guys have a second vest that they wear on top. So this has got a second vest, and I've sort of mimicked doing a camelback under that vest, so the back is a little bit more pronounced, and it gives him that Dakar look. So that came out great, and that was really it's the centerpiece of the whole bike.
Yeah.
Without that,
without that custom rider.
Yeah, and then we painted the boots, because obviously the boots come in black, but that was a really easy thing to do with Tamiya, like acrylic paint.
Oh, okay, they're just painted, yeah, of course.
And not, motocross guys and Dakar. Toby wears white boots, so I made him white.
I've never actually worked on one of these Promoto bikes. Are the boots like detachable from the rider's leg, or are they like molded as part of the
The rider's in sort of two main parts. The upper, and from the waist it splits, and the head's actually included in all of that, and then the lower, so the boots are molded in.
Okay,
and that actually gives it really great durability.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that, and we were talking earlier, before the filming, about all the different RC bikes that have come before.
Yes.
And Losi doing this fabric outfit is a total game changer. Not just because you can customize it like this, but it gives an extra element of realism.
Yeah.
So it's been
absolutely, and they're replaceable and customizable now.
Yeah,
with the cottage industries.
Yeah, this is the non-tested version. So the tested version
is a bit torn up.
Is a bit torn up. I've already gone through a couple of different outfits, but that's part of it's quite a capable bike, and it can get into a lot of trouble.
And the helmets too. The helmet looks in rather good shape.
Yeah, so that does need to be painted. As probably everyone knows, Toby Price is a Red Bull rider.
Yeah,
so it needs that proper Red Bull. I'll get to that at some point.
Yep.
But again, it's molded in the same soft material, so it's very flexible. That takes a lot of impact, as you can imagine, when the bike rolls over.
It's almost like, I don't know, it takes back to a child, like as an action figure or something, right?
Same
like
technology.
That. Yeah.
So your original way back Action Man, and still your current Barbie's roto-molded. This is the same construction type of material.
Yep. So tell us a little bit about what you've done to the bike.
So basically everything in white and the exhaust and the skid plate are all new parts. They're all 3D printed. They're designed to fit directly to the existing body. So you take a stock Promoto, take all the body panels off.
Like the one that I've got just here, for example.
Right
so this is a stock bike. And straight away, I'm going to point out something very obvious while they're on camera. You don't have stock wheels on yours.
No.
So these ones here are an aftermarket wheel.
Yeah.
But they are beautiful. Look at that. They're actually proper spoke wheel and anodized aluminium hub.
That's right.
Yeah. As opposed to here, and there's nothing wrong with the stock one functionality-wise, but scale-wise, you can see it's just got big, chunky plastic spokes.
Yeah.
Plastic wheel and probably a plastic hub.
Yeah. And you can get the stock wheel in black, which I considered, because I was looking at the original reference to the Dakar bikes, and they have this sort of look. So I am denied between, obviously the silver spoke wasn't quite cutting it if I just went with the Losi stock plastic wheel, but then Proline make these versions, which are
awesome.
They're not cheap, and they are beautiful, and it allows you to quickly change tyres, which is a nice feature, but the fact that they just look so real. Yeah. There are other aftermarket companies that do a metal spoke, but I don't think anyone does the spoke as fine and real as Proline.
While we're talking about the spokes, let's just spin it around, because I want to have a look at the rear, because the rear sort of also really, really nice, the rear wheels. So these are different tyre, and the gold, it's a licensed product by Losi, isn't it, these?
Optional hop-up.
Optional hop-up, bolted to this Proline wheel, you said, right?
Yeah, direct fit, everything's direct fit. Obviously all under Horizon, so.
Under a Proline tyre.
Yeah.
And you can see the scale difference there between the factory OEM plastic stuff and the custom aftermarket stuff. Just looks next level.
Yeah, they did a really, really good job.
All right, enough about the alloy bits. We want to know about the 3D printed and plastic accessories.
Probably the most difficult part of this project was the fact that 3D printing has come a long way, but it's not known for its durability. And whilst I can argue that 3D printing has been more durable than ever, it is really tested on this platform, because as anyone's ever played with these or seen any of the videos, these are driven at full speed, they're driven off-road, and being a bike, they crash a lot.
They do crash a lot.
And they tumble and they roll. And so a big consideration was, how do I make the 3D printed parts as durable as possible?
Yes.
So we did a couple of things on this project to kind of help that, and we did a lot of testing. This design here is the 7th iteration, and I literally built it, loaded it up, took it out the front on concrete, rolled it, crashed it, and figured out where it broke, and then try to reinforce it or change materials. And this is sort of the outcome of all of that.
Lucky you live in a court.
Yeah, I've got a nice little test area. You've been to my house, so you know, which was great because I didn't have to worry about cars. That would be another obstacle. But so a couple of the cool features on this that we came up with. So the Dakar bike, unlike the motocross stock bike, has an exposed exhaust.
Yes.
And obviously straight away I was like, well, what are we going to do to fix that? So we've actually made it in 3 pieces. Now it's in 3 pieces to help actually print it as well. So when you buy a file from Night Customs, we've laid it out so you can actually, whether you've got a Bamba or Prusa or similar printer, we've got all the files orientated, because the orientation does 2 key things. Firstly, it gives you the best possible print, because depending how you print a file, you might get more or less steps, and you want less steps. So we orientate it to get the smoothest finish. And the second thing is strength. So actually a tip, look, Cookie's been, Andrew Cook, one of our friends, taught me a couple of tricks on which angle you want the layers of the print to go to give you the strongest part.
It's almost like carbon fiber weave, right?
100%. It really is. So, we recommend our parts to sort of get you out the gate for the best strength and the best aesthetic look.
Yep.
Now, I'm not the world's best printer. People like Cookie, and there's a lot of other guys out there that might say, hey, I can tweak that and get a better result. That's great, and please do that. But for me, it's just, this is a good starting point. If you don't know anything about printing, this will get you going. So with the exhaust, we did it in 3 parts to make it easy to print and get a super clean look.
Not only that, but I imagine the most susceptible part to damage will be the muffler.
100%. Right? And you can see
it. And you can just change the muffler piece.
Yes. So you can already see it here. The minute you do a wheelie and you get off track, this gets damaged. So what we did was we've not only is it 3 pieces, so it's easy to replace, but also between each piece there's a TPR, which is a soft, more like rubber for layman's terms, plastic, between the hard plastic. So the reason we did that is we could have done the whole exhaust in TPU, but it wouldn't have looked metallic and it wouldn't have looked as good. So we decided to do it hard plastic so we can get the detail, make it look really like metal. They've got some great metal filaments that make it look like they're plastic, but they make it look like metal. And then we've got a TPU mount here, just like on the real bike. Yep. So that lets the exhaust flex side to side. And then between the main body, the mid body, and the front, there's 2 square sectioned flexible parts. So you can't quite see it here, but it allows it actually to flex in 3 areas.
Yep.
And also, because it's square sectioned, it keeps the exhaust the right shape.
Let's have a little look on the overhead.
Great.
And see exactly what we are looking at. So I can see, like, you've got the joint, right?
Yes, there's a joint here, and actually on this one I might be able to pull it apart just to show you. it can open up.
Yep.
There's a square section there. So that stops the...
Like a locator.
Yes, and it stops the exhaust rotating.
Yeah.
Because what you don't want is this whole thing...
Twisting.
Like, twisting when you're driving. So, yeah, you can push that. It's a very nice interference fit, so everything goes together super solid.
There's another one down here.
Another one there, yeah. And then you've got the mount point into
and the mounting point.
plate.
Yep. Fantastic. And it's good. And like you said, it does actually look like stainless steel or titanium sort of finished, right?
Yeah.
And if you got your painting airbrush and stuff out, you could
you can go to town.
You could put some colouring on there and all sorts, right?
The panels shown here are literally off the printer.
Yep.
There was no cleanup, and you can obviously it's a great base. You can
Well, you do that deliberately just to show exactly what you're buying.
Yeah, I mean this is how we display everything. We always do it in the white. We do it in a matte PLA because it shows off all the details, and then you can print it in any material you want, really.
So this bike is based off 2015 Toby Price KTM.
That's right. It's the KTM Dakar and
KTM Dakar.
Yeah.
Dakar machine. So it's got extended range fuel tank.
Well, it's got 4 of them. Yeah.
Four of them.
One each side at the back,
Yep.
and then one each side at the front.
One each side at the front.
And they have a really cool feature on the real bike. They can balance the fuel between front and back, so they can actually balance the bike.
Okay.
They have a front and rear bias, which is cool
Really
little
cool.
geek fun fact.
And you've left with the 2-piece rear guard flap.
Yes.
And I'll show that. I can show the standard one after if you want. And you said you've actually got standard pieces as well. Is that right?
Yeah. So we've released this bike first as a project, and then what we've now done as sort of an aftermarket hop up for the stock bike is that we've released basically a front and rear guard set. So these are the stock injection molded parts from Losi. Great parts, really quality, high plastic, but they wear a lot. Even with this cool feature that Losi put in to reduce the wear and tear, these are the things that wear out the fastest. So both in the front and in the rear. That's where the biggest amount of damage comes. So a lot of people online were looking for a 3D printed version so they can just quickly replace the front and rear without having to buy a whole new plastic set. So that's what we did. This is the 3D printed version that I came up with. It's a slightly different design, so you can tell that it's not exactly the same. It's a 0.5 mil thicker, so this is 2 mil thick versus 1.5. Because it's 3D printed, they will wear quicker than the stock item, but the fact that you can replace them for like less than $1, and like you said, you print out 5 sets and just switch them out. We do the front and the rear. And then we also did a 1-piece. So this piece, for someone who wants a more realistic look without the split in the rear, we recommend you print in TPR so it just folds up. And a couple of guys that race have done that. They've created this sort of part. They do it in TPR, which is super flexible. So rather than it folding, it just folds up.
And TPR, I imagine that's what you'd probably print the front guard out of too.
That's right. Ideally, front and rear, if you really want the most durability, TPR is the best material. That's the material we used for this bracket here and in the lot things.
And that will give, because the front one, I've played with one of these or driven or ridden one of these bikes or whatever you call it, and the front guard, as soon as you crash or whatever, does take its toll. And then when you are learning to wheelie or when you backflip it, the back guard obviously takes the brunt. All right, show us some more features on your creation here.
So probably the thing that really transforms the overall look of the body is the fact that we've got this enduro style, Dakar style skid plate. And that kind of, on the stock bike, you've got an open area which is sort of, doesn't have much detail, but this changes the proportion of the bike. This is actually printed in a very fancy, it's PPA carbon fiber, which is basically a carbon fiber infused plastic. So it's a little bit more expensive, but for this part of the bike where it slaps if you case it on a jump, it's sort of, we thought it was important to really beef it up. So it's 2 mil thick. We've printed it in carbon fiber infused plastic.
Almost feels like a really, it's got a high tensile or whole surface, sort of feels really...
Bamboo call this an automotive plastic.
Automotive.
And when you look at what they do on the website, they've used this plastic for rear spoiler mounts on real cars. So it's a very high grade plastic. It's a lot more, it's expensive and harder to print, but it's worth it, and I think important for this part of the bike because of the amount of hits it's going to get. Not something you want to do in TPU, but you could do in carbon fiber plastic.
Fantastic.
And then obviously that integrates into the side panels, and this is very much like it's exactly the same stock mounts as the original bike. So you literally use the same set of screws, you pull it off, you put it back on, very easy. There's a couple of extra length screws you need for the exhaust and the skid plate, and we call them out in the instructions when you buy the panels.
Yep, and you can still access a stock mounting location for the switch.
Yes, so you've seen here, you can see it. It's the switch on the bike's way in there.
Yep.
We've made a hole just big enough to put your little pinky in.
Yep.
And let it turn it on and off. We didn't want to do more than that, but
you have to relocate the switch and all that rubbish.
Yeah. Or if you've got a bigger finger, you might want to drill that out and make it a bit bigger, depending on the size of your digits.
And access to the battery remains fairly
identical
easy with your kit.
Yeah, it was something that was funny when we started showing this in the forums and getting people input. Everyone's like, "How do you get the battery in?" Because the bike's deceptive. Even the stock bike looks skinnier than it is.
Yeah.
Because as you know, the bike takes a standard 2S battery pack, which was a real cool thing for Losi to do. It's a popular pack. So the same pack goes in and out exactly the same way.
Yeah, just a square case basher lipo, right?
Yeah, and we've made clearances, and behind the tanks are hollow.
Yep.
So that allows you a lot of space to get your fingers in there to plug the battery in or pull out the snap pin to release the battery.
Yep. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Have a look at this.
So the other sort of distinguishing part of a Dakar bike is this navigation unit.
Yeah. And
that was the thing I think I got most excited about, because this allows you to put like a double stack LED light set in, and we've worked with MyTrick RC, who do a custom light sets for RC parts, and they've come up with a light set for it.
Yep.
It's got for those who don't know, when you navigate Dakar, you have to have a paper scroll navigation map.
Yeah,
instead of all
GPS.
Exactly. So they have this big screen, and we've made a big area there so you can print out a label and stick it on and replicate that. We've got the other dials in there. And then the thing I spent probably the most time on this bike was making this front pump durable.
Yes.
So we wanted to make it look as close to the real bike as possible, but also then when this thing does a front flip or a back flip, that this is going to take brunt, because obviously the triangulation between the head of the rider and the front of the mudguard, this is exposed. So we did a couple of things. The first most obvious thing is the screen here isn't 3D printed.
No.
We do provide a 3D printed file that if you want to print it out, we only recommend that for like sitting on the shelf.
Yep.
If this spends more time sitting on the shelf, and when you ride it, you just ride it carefully because you just want to look at it like a scale model that moves, that's totally fine.
Is the 3D printed clear as that though?
It can be. You normally have to post-process it, you normally have to polish it.
Okay.
Comes out a little cloudy, just because of the way it's printed, but then you can polish it up and make it quite clear.
There you go.
But this one obviously is Lexan.
Yep.
So what we were able to figure out was, because of the way they designed the bike, we've given a template, so a standard piece of sort of 1.5mm Lexan sheet.
Yep.
We give you a template to stick down on top of it. You literally cut it out, and then there's 2 folds, one each side, and then that allows you drill 4 holes, and then that basically wraps around the pod and forms the shape.
And fits perfectly.
It fits perfectly, looks almost like the real bike, and it's super flex because it's Lexan.
Yeah.
And this is the final one, but the prototype, we beat the living snot out of it.
It's going to get scratched and stuff,
It got
right?
scratched and bent, but it stood up like a champ.
Yeah.
But so after the glass area, the next big thing was the pod itself.
Yeah.
And obviously you can see it's quite exposed. So we did a couple of things there to make that more durable. So there's 2 things we did here. Firstly, initially we looked at actually bolting it to the bike, and there's a really good area to bolt here. But that actually caused a weak point, a really, really big weak point. So what we actually did, it sort
of has crash protection, right, in the front end.
Yeah, and that's another.
And that's retained?
You can see that if you hold the bike. Can we do that? So you can see.
Yeah.
That. So what we actually did was we mounted the pod with a snap fit. It's got a very robust C-clip, and the first mount point is around the crown of the just below the crown of the forks.
Yes.
So this literally snap fits on there, and what that does is it's a quite secure fit. But in the worst crash possible, it will break away. But then you can just click it back on. And the reason it can break away is the second thing we did is this mount here is TPU.
Very flexible.
So this is super flexible. So you can have a hard part here, goes into a flexible part there that clips on, and those 2 mounting points, which 3 because it's 1 each side, really help this survive rollovers.
Yeah.
So we did multiple rollovers on concrete where this is getting hit. It either stays on and it's fine, or it comes off and you can click it back on because this just flexes. It's not easy to click on and off. It doesn't just fall off. You have to have a big crash. And we were quite happy with that. I got to a point where I felt like it's never going to be as durable as the stock bike, but it is durable enough that you don't really have to worry that if you have a couple of rollovers, you're going to ruin this thing you spent hours printing.
Yeah, well, that's the main thing. And then, I mean, It's an RC, right? So if you break it and reprint it,
Well, that's the other thing.
It gives
Yeah.
you something to do on the bench.
Yeah, that's the best thing
Bit
about
of wrenching.
Yeah, I think.
Bit of wrench and create.
Yeah, we talked. It's $29 to buy the file set, and you get the files. You get all the setup files, the G code, so you can just go straight to print if you've got a Bamboo or a Prusa. And then it's probably $10 to $15 of plastic for the whole kit.
Yep.
I would say so. An individual part might cost you $5 to print or less if you damage it, which is much cheaper than coming to Hearns and having to buy a whole body kit.
Yeah, because the parts for these bikes are not cheap.
No.
And I think they're only available as a whole set.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why we did the front and rear guards. So now lets people have, for a couple of bucks, you can replace a front guard versus buying the whole body panel set.
Fantastic, fantastic. Is there anything else that, because obviously you know a whole heap a lot about being the creator, a lot more about this than I do.
No, I think we covered everything, right? We've added, obviously, we tried to make this as real as possible in the presentation model. I mean, I'd love to actually have this on display here at some point, so for people who want to come to Hearns and see it in person. Right now, we're working on some demo stands so we can show this bike at events without having to ship the whole bike. So it'll just be the forks and the main body.
Yep.
But I think that we covered it. We talked about Toby Price. We talked about where the bike's inspiration came from. We talked about all the cool hop-ups on it. I think Losi did a really phenomenal job with this platform. The only thing we didn't really mention is we've done this bike now, what's next?
Yeah, well, we can't give it away, can we?
No, but it is interesting that everyone has seen the bike, says, what about X next? And everyone's got a favourite bike.
Of course they do.
Whether I'm doing it or Losi doing it, I'd be very surprised if there's not new bikes in the future.
New iterations.
Yep.
I mean, Losi couldn't engineer this whole platform just for 4 different colour motocross bikes, surely.
Yeah. And even though the bike is relatively expensive versus maybe a stock RTR that we're used to, I think it's incredible value for money, and I know they've sold a ton of them. So there's a big community of Losi Moto X Pro Moto guys out there, and the response to this so far has been really good.
And the engineering behind it is amazing,
Yeah.
right? It's a fantastic product.
Yeah.
Because RC motorbikes are tricky, and they've really done a very good job.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really hard for somebody in an RTR market to come at them because they've done such a good job with this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they did. There's a great video online where they talked about it, and we had a little chat earlier about the evolution of ready control motorbikes.
Yeah.
They've been doing ready control motorbikes since at least the 70s, maybe earlier.
Yeah.
Kyosho Cox, we were talking about the one that I saw recently.
Yeah,
I had
the old Tamiya Honda one.
Yes.
The red one.
Yep. We had the
Hang-On Rider.
The Hang-On Rider, which is probably the most famous, the 1/12 Kyosho on-road bike. But the fact that Losi put the flywheel in the center of this is a real innovation. It means you get really realistic front and rear wheels and tires. I think it gives you that off-road performance that you don't really get as well in other bikes. It gives you some odd handling characteristics, but you can tune that out, and you can certainly
drive around
it to make it look super real. But the minute this goes off-road, it's just a game changer. It makes you smile. And for those that don't know, it has this cool wheelie mode, which is my favorite mode. So you click it in wheelie mode and you just full throttle it, and it will stand a perfect wheelie and just hold the wheelie as long as it's got road in front of it, which I love doing that. It's very, very cool.
It looks cool, doesn't it? It's such a cool feature. And there's on-road tyres, off-road tyres. They've even done a super motard version.
Yeah, that's a cool bike.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, looking forward to it. And I'm really looking forward to not only this one, seeing people out there with their Night Custom stuff. What you come up with next, James?
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, I'm Brett from Hearns Hobbies. You're James Knight from Night Customs. And thanks for taking a look at us with the
MX Dakar conversion set.
There you go. The Night Customs MX Dakar conversion set. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Brett.